It's Sunday Dead Zone, and this is an acoustic performance of the Dead. I believe it's from Harper College, which is Binghamton University, but it's a Dead Zone that I believe it's from 2 or 3 years ago. I believe it's from 1970, the performance. Good one. And an appropriate music to be listening to as we start a section that's called the musicality of learning. So let me lower that. Okay. Throughout this exploration, we have made the connection between the evocative calling of the originary first questions and the comportment that results from the proper reception of these questions. From the onset, we identified these questions as conveyed in the message and joining us in the purposeful wandering in the location of discovery, the open region. We said all along that evocative speech positions us for learning. When we have been turned around and have become attuned to the appeal of language, we now recognize this appeal as signifying being's excess that is itself an offering. Being's offering is both a gift, the granting of freedom, the releasement from the confines of the ego's solitary confinement into the fellowship of relationality, and an invocation, an appeal for concern and care to build and cultivate the community of peace and freedom. To enter into learning is to be released into the open region, the path of the boundless boundaries mystery. The mysteries appears with the ineffable that reveals the twofold play of being's processual unfolding as appearance hiding. Let me just lower this. To leap into the open region is to become part of the building of the shelter that gathers and conserves the appearance of the ineffable. To show concern for the ineffable is to make way for the arrival of wisdom. To show care and concern for being is first to accept the gift, the sparing, the releasement, and thereby to become a learner and joined in poetic dialogue. To become a learner is to show care and concern for the other, but to do this involves a celebration of the many, tapanta. Learning is the celebration of the many. The celebration is another way of describing poetic dwelling. We use the term celebrate to underscore the festive nature of learning as an initiative and improvisational gathering. The improvisational gathering, the festival of the many, gets underway and is guided by the voice that determines and tunes the nature of those who gather. Those who gather, the apprentices, are gathered by the sparing speech that bears the glad tidings of peace and freedom. The open region onto which the apprentices leap is revealed as the mysterious and unforeseen path of discovery. Discovery as the improvisation emerging as in the give and take of poetic dialogue. The sage, as maestro, directs or guides the apprentices along the path. Her guidance as a teacher lets learning be learned. But in order for her to let learning be, she must conduct herself and thereby most steadfastly be open to hearing the play of the many. She must unify the many into a polyphonic arrangement, for the fellowship of peace and freedom is an expression of the hidden harmony of the twofold play. To be able to conduct herself, the sage has renounced her claim upon language, submitted herself to painstaking listening, and remained steadfastly hearing of the many. As we said in the opening moments of this exploration, there is no question that the hearing that we are attempting to describe is more than a response to sound waves, although the sound waves generated by musical instruments, bells, drums, etc., can certainly be called evocative in the way we are using them. So too can singing and chanting be understood as examples of evocative speech. Here we understand more forcefully the link between the performance and reception of music and the poetic dialogue of learning. To repeat, when we describe learning as a dialogic event, we are calling attention to a particular kind of communicative action where people are engaged in what we might call, following Arendt, the art of freedom, where the dramatic performance of speaking and listening creates the condition of plurality, where all can see and be seen and heard. This kind of performance is the essence of action as freedom. Drama, action, describes an event which is vivid, emotional, stirring, moving. When we stress the physicality of evocative speech and poetic dialogue, we recover the earliest denotation of the term effusis as the horizon of appearance and through which being emerges and shines forth. With this emphasis, we are suggesting that the tidings of being are delivered through the dramatic performance of evocative speech. Here, as we go further into the open region of learning, we emphasize what we might now call the musicality of learning, and thereby explore the originary mode as a poetic, as a performance, as a chanting, a singing, a playing. To fully grasp learning as the collaborative free play into which we are released by evocative speech, we must explore how and why this message is able to be stirring, captivating. Earlier we said the sage's evocative speech as bearing the message of the inevitable, which releases the apprentice to learning through an enchanting intonement that we said is an expression of a conjuring art. What is this conjuring art that intones through invocation, that invokes with a particular kind of calling, vocare, and that calls out and makes a supplication and calls on to declare something in relation to be binding or in effect? And that's how it ends, this 25th day of May, originally written 10 years ago, the 25th of May 2004, and commemorated this day 10 years later, 25 May 2014, with the dead zone going on in the background. And this is a meditation that really shows the influence that the Dead and Coltrane and other improvisational artists and musicians have on this work. And, into the point where, the whole idea of the poetic phenomenological meditation is that it's improvisation. And so that, the repetition, one way to understand the repetition that's going on, and there is repetition, is that it's the familiar tune. It's just, then it's within that space that I solo, so to speak. And the soloing is the move into something unique and novel within the context of the work and the writing. And here, what's new and kind of interesting is talking about the sage and the conduct of the sage. I'm playing on the word conduct and talking about the conduct of the sage as like conducting. So I play with the idea of a modality and the way that one presents oneself, and liken that to being a conductor. So I thought that was important. The other thing that was kind of interesting and a little uncanny was that I used the word maestro. And 2 days ago, when I on the 99th meditation from the 23rd of May, I cited an article from the New Yorker by Sasha Ferry Jones on the Japanese soloist, guitar player, who is called by his bandmates the maestro. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's kind of a coincidence. So calling the sage the maestro was quite coincidental with the discussion of Keiji Haino, who's called by his bandmates Oren Abarchi and Stephen O'Malley the maestro. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. And if you're interested in the blog, check it out. It's Duarte beingandlearning.blogspot.com. Check it out.